everybody, it's Lauren. Welcome back to my channel. Today's video is going to be my really small October wrap up, and I'm also going to be talking about a couple of the books that I'm in the middle of reading that I'll probably will get around to finishing in November. October was like the weirdest month for me. I went into it expecting to read a ton, and I had a ton of books picked out, and then just all this weird stuff happened and I hardly got to read anything. In fact, I only finished 5 books, but I ended up starting like 4 more in that month. So I'm going to be talking about all of them today, and I'm really excited because even though I didn't read a lot, I actually enjoyed everything that I read. So let's just go ahead and hop right into it. The first book that I finished in October was My Best Friend's Exorcism by Grady Hendrix, and I really liked this book a lot. There was a lot of fun, 80s nostalgia in it, and side note, if you're a fan of Stranger Things, and I am totally obsessed with Stranger Things, you will like this book because it's very similar. There is so much 80s nostalgia in here. There's tons of like references. Every title is like an 80s song. So on that aspect, if you're like a big 80s fan or you like 80s nostalgia, you will really like this book. But as far as like story goes, it was also very good. It wasn't scary, and I had expected it to be more frightening than it was. What I actually ended up really liking the most about the book was the friendship between the 2 main girl characters. It was so authentic feeling and felt like such a real friendship. Like, it reminded me of the kind of relationship I have with my own best friend. That ended up being my favorite part of the book. There were a couple parts that were gross and, kind of creepy, but for the most part, it was exactly like a cheesy 80s horror film. It wasn't so much scary as almost funny in that sense, and I feel like if you're someone that does frighten easy or just likes cheesy horror, you would totally be into this book. I had a really great time reading it, and I ended up giving it 4 out of 5 stars, and yeah, I did enjoy this one, and I would recommend it if you like that kind of book. So next in October, I finally got around to rereading Harry Potter and the Sorcerer's Stone by J.K. Rowling for probably the bazillion millionth time. This is a book that I have wanted to reread for quite a while. I used to reread it pretty much every year, and for the past probably 7 years, there have just been so many other books I felt like I didn't want to waste time rereading this when I couldn't catch up to all the other things I wanted to read. However, I just kind of felt like the mood was right and I really wanted to reread it, so I did. And of course it was a 5-star read. There is nothing about Harry Potter that I dislike. I enjoy it every time that I reread it, and I just love the story, I love the setting, I love the characters, and it's something I can continue to revisit. So I'm really planning on continuing with the series soon, and I'm really glad that I got around to reading this around October because it's such a Halloween book and just gives me such a, warm fuzzy feeling whenever I reread it. The next book that I finished in October was Winter Song by S.J. Jones, and I'm not going to really talk about this here because I have a full, in-depth, spoiler-free review coming for this book very soon. But for the purposes of this video, just know that I loved this book. I thought it was fabulous, and I had been a little hesitant going into it because I had heard mixed reviews. And I gave it 5 out of 5 stars. I think it's one of the best books that I've read in 2017 so far, and I just adored it. I adored it. I thought the writing style was awesome. I love the fact that it was a loose labyrinth retelling, which is one of my favorite films of all time. And I had such a good time with this book. There were a few little things that I didn't like, but like I said, I'll get into that in my review. When I do end up posting that review, I will link it down below so you can watch it, but for now, just know that I gave it 5 out of 5 stars, and I do highly recommend it. Another book that is probably going to be one of my favorites of 2017 is Every Heart a Doorway by Seanan McGuire. This book was a birthday present. I literally read it in 2 hours in one sitting because it was so freaking good, and I was not expecting to be so in love with it. I gave this book 5 out of 5 stars as well, and I wish it was 300 pages at least. In the book, you get a chance to kind of learn about all these worlds that these children have come back from, and every world is so unique and every character is so different that I needed a full book on all of them. I just wanted to keep reading and learning about all of these different worlds, and it also kind of had these really heavy topics that it dealt with in a kind of unique fantasy-esque way, which I appreciated and thought was really unique. There's so much that goes into this. There's this like whole world mapping system, and there's murders and like everything going on in this like really tiny novella, and it was just so good. So I absolutely loved this one, and I highly recommend it. Anyone could read this in probably like a day or two, and it was so good. The last book that I read in October, I literally read on like Halloween night while I was waiting for trick-or-treaters, and it is The Halloween Tree by Ray Bradbury. I gave this book 3 out of 5 stars because I knew going into it I wasn't a fan of Ray Bradbury's writing, but I had wanted to read something that was like very Halloween-esque on Halloween, and this definitely fit the bill. It was about 8 trick-or-treaters who are chasing after the spirit of their friend, and they kind of have to go on this journey throughout Halloween's history to kind of get him back. And it was cute, and I liked the story a lot, and there were some really cool illustrations in here, but for the most part the writing was just strange, and I already knew that it would be like that, so I'm not holding that against the book, but the story was good, but the writing was a miss, and it was just kind of a strange little book. But if you like Ray Bradbury, you would like this, and I feel like nobody's ever heard of this or read of this book, and it was honestly not bad. So while it wasn't exactly for me, I would still recommend it. I did have a good time with it, and I read it in like one night, so it was a good little book. And that's all the books that I've read in October, and now I'm just going to kind of briefly talk about the 4 books that I'm in the middle of. And I guess I'll kind of count this as like my November TBR as well, because I'm definitely going to be finishing all 4 of these this month. The first one that I have here is The Wood by Chelsea Babolsky. This was a recent purchase for me, and I kind of guess I didn't know what this was about when I bought it, because I thought that it was going to be kind of like a dark fairy tale book about like a wood that's turning sinister, and there's this family that kind of has to like go in and keep it from becoming evil, and that's sort of what it's about, but it's way more sci-fi than I thought it was. This book is actually about like these time travelers that are coming through portals in the wood, and there's this family that has to protect the portals and make sure if someone gets out of like their time period, they have to go back into their proper portal. And I don't really think the wood's that evil at all, and I just guess I missed the boat, because the synopsis did not sound like what this book is about at all, or I just am really dense and didn't understand what I was reading, because I don't know if I would have picked this book up if I had known it was going to have such a strong emphasis on like time travel and sci-fi, because that's not really something that I read. And so far I'm not really sure how I feel about this book. So while I do want to finish it, I don't know if I'm going to end up liking it as much as I initially thought I was going to, because it's nothing like that. I'm about 20 pages in, and I feel very unsure about it right now. On the opposite side of that spectrum though, a book that I'm absolutely loving and that I'm about 100 pages in is Karvall by Stephanie Garber. This book is so good, and I probably would have finished it a lot sooner. I don't even know how to describe this book. The plot is fabulous. It's about this like enchanted circus that, you know, only comes into town once a year, and at the circus the audience kind of gets to take part, and the winner gets a wish or something. And the way that Stephanie Garber writes is so visual that it's almost overwhelming, and I've had to put the book down several times because her writing is so beautiful that you can perfectly visualize everything, and she has a super detailed, intense world that she's built, and I absolutely love it. But sometimes it's like almost too much for me. So I already know that I'm probably going to give this book 5 stars and that I'm going to love it, but I've had to put it down because it's so intense. So I don't know, take that as you will. But I'm really enjoying my time with this one, and I really need to finish it. I just was like overwhelmed when I first started reading it. The last 2 books that I'm currently in the middle of are 2 that I'm really proud to be like reading, because I put them off for way too long. So this one I'm basically almost done with, and it is City of Ashes by Cassandra Clare. I'm probably the only person in the world who has not yet read the entirety of the Mortal Instruments series, but honestly, I read City of Bones a couple of years ago and it took me 2 tries to get through that book. I just did not click with it the same way that everyone else seems to, and I'm not sure if that's just something in the way Cassandra Clare writes that I find hard to read, or I don't know. I found the book to be a little bit slow paced, and it was like a lot of things were happening in City of Bones and it was good, but I just felt like also a lot of stuff did not happen and it felt like it took way too long for things to get going. So it's probably just me because everyone else really seems to like this series, but I'm finally getting around to reading City of Ashes, and honestly, I am enjoying this book so much more than City of Bones. I really like the kind of plot points that are going on in this one, and it's been a much more quick read, and I've just kind of flown through this one as compared to City of Bones. So at least it looks like the series is looking up for me because I really want to kind of read it and enjoy it as much as everyone else. I still have 4 more to go after this, and then like a billion other books by her as well, so it's going to be a while before I catch up to everyone else. But I am really enjoying this one, and yeah, I'm really proud of myself for reading this one, but not as proud as I am for reading this last book that I'm going to talk about, and that is Throne of Glass by Sarah J. Maas. This is the first time that I'm reading a Sarah J. Maas book. This is her first book and the first book in the Throne of Glass series. I know that people like her other series, A Court of Thorns and Roses, better, but I kind of wanted to start with her first book and kind of grow with her writing style as well, because I have never read any of her books, and she is kind of considered like the goddess of young adult high fantasy books, and I can kind of see why people feel that way. Her writing is phenomenal. She has this quality to the way she writes where she's able to character build and world build and do all of this amazing stuff while moving her plot forward in like the perfect pacing, and it's just a treat. I'm loving all of her characters, I'm loving the story, and I'm really glad that I finally am reading a Sarah J. Maas book and kind of able to talk about it and, you know, have opinions on some of her writing, because I think everyone in the world has read her books except me, and I'm really proud that I'm finally getting around to this. So far, I personally really like it. So yeah, I'm finally reading this one. I am so proud of myself. So I just have to finish it actually now in November, but I'm really proud. I started it. That is a good step forward. But yeah, that is all the books that I read in October and all the books that I am currently reading that I will probably be showing you again in my November wrap-up with full thoughts. If everything goes well. We shall see. But yeah, I hope that you are all, you know, enjoying your books that you're currently reading. Let me know down below what you read in October that you loved, or what you're currently reading that you're absolutely loving, or maybe that you're absolutely hating so I know not to read it. And yeah, I will see you guys all in my next video. I hope you're having an amazing day. Bye everybody.